From the belief that I have to earn your love, deliver me, Jesus. From the fear that I am unlovable, deliver me, Jesus. From the false security that I have what it takes, deliver me, Jesus. From the fear that trusting you will leave me more destitute, deliver me, Jesus. From all suspicion of your words and promises, deliver me, Jesus. From the rebellion against childlike dependency, on you deliver me, Jesus. From refusals and reluctances, in accepting your will, deliver me, Jesus. From anxiety about the future, deliver me, Jesus. From resentment or excessive preoccupation with the past, deliver me, Jesus. From restless self-seeking in the present moment, deliver me, Jesus. From disbelief in your love and presence, deliver me, Jesus. From the fear of being asked to give more than I have, deliver me, Jesus. From the belief that my life has no meaning or worth, deliver me, Jesus. From the fear of what love demands, deliver me, Jesus. From discouragement, deliver me, Jesus. That you are continually holding me, sustaining me, loving me, Jesus, I trust in you. That your love goes deeper than my sins and failings, and transforms me, Jesus, I trust in you. That not knowing what tomorrow brings is an invitation to lean on you, Jesus, I trust in you. That you are with me in my suffering, Jesus, I trust in you. That my suffering, united to your own, will bear fruit in this life and the next, Jesus, I trust in you. That you will not leave me orphan, that you are present in your church, Jesus, I trust in you. That your plan is better than anything else, Jesus, I trust in you. That you always hear me, and in your goodness always respond to me, Jesus, I trust in you. That you give me the grace to accept forgiveness, and to forgive others, Jesus, I trust in you. That you give me all the strength I need for what is asked, Jesus, I trust in you. That my life is a gift, Jesus, I trust in you. That you will teach me to trust you, Jesus, I trust in you. That you are my Lord and my God, Jesus, I trust in you. That I am your beloved one, Jesus, I trust in you.
Have you ever tried to control a situation so tightly, maybe a massive project at work, or even the choices of someone you love, that you actually ended up ruining the very thing you were trying to protect?
Oh, yeah. All the time.
Right. I mean, a grip just tightens, your anxiety spikes, you map out every single possible worst-case scenario, and somehow the outcome still goes completely sideways.
It's just so frustrating.
It really is. You spend all this emotional energy trying to secure tomorrow, to insulate yourself from the unknown. And at the end of the day, you're usually just left with a racing heart, burnout, and this awful realization that you never really had control in the first place.
Yeah. And honestly, the modern condition is largely defined by that exact illusion of control.
Yeah.
We're just culturally conditioned to believe that if we, optimize our schedules enough, or if we worry about a problem from every conceivable angle, we can somehow outsmart the unpredictable nature of life.
Like we can life hack our way out of bad things happening.
Exactly. But the psychological toll of that constant vigilance is staggering. I mean, the unknown is always going to win, and fighting it constantly is a direct path to mental and spiritual exhaustion.
And that exhausting illusion of control is really the core of our deep dive today. We are exploring a profound piece of spiritual writing called A Litany of Trust.
It's a fascinating text.
It really is. It's a contemporary Catholic prayer, and its entire architecture is designed to combat that exact anxiety. The exhausting need to manage outcomes and our deep-seated terror of the unknown.
Yeah, and we have a really great stack of sources for this one.
We do. We're looking at the origin story of how this prayer came to be, the actual text of the litany itself, and an analytical commentary titled An Anatomy of Surrender. So our mission today is to uncover how this specific text acts as a mirror to our hidden anxieties, guiding a reader from a state of rigid, fear-based self-reliance into this state of profound, grace-filled vulnerability.
Which is quite the journey. And to really grasp how this litany dismantles anxiety, we have to start with the intensely personal, very human moment of crisis that birthed it.
Right, because it's not some ancient thing.
No, not at all. This is not some dusty ancient text dug up from a monastic archive, It is a living response to universal anxiety, written relatively recently by a woman named Sister Faustina Maria Pia.
And she's a member of the Sisters of Life, right?
Exactly. She's a member of a religious community called the Sisters of Life.
Yeah.
And the backstory the sources provide is quite striking, I think, because it shatters the assumption that religious figures somehow just like float above the anxieties the rest of us
Oh,
face.
for sure. There is often this assumption that if you take religious vows, you are suddenly inoculated against the fear of the unknown, like you get a spiritual free pass from anxiety or something.
Right, like you've unlocked the secret level where stress doesn't exist. But the reality is much more complicated. A few years after taking her vows, Sister Faustina hit a profound wall of uncertainty.
She hit burnout.
Basically, yeah. The sources describe her facing a situation where she completely lacked clarity. She felt entirely overwhelmed by her circumstances. She was basically bumping up against the very human limitation of simply not knowing what to do next.
Which is just a deeply relatable place to be. I mean, you've made these massive life commitments. You are supposedly on the secure, well-defined path, and suddenly you are just drowning in the fog of the unknown. So how did that personal crisis actually translate into this text?
While she took that overwhelming fog into the chapel, while praying before a crucifix, she was essentially forced to confront her own internal desire to micromanage the situation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's grappling with what it actually meant to trust God in that highly specific, highly confusing moment. And during that prayer, she felt a profound interior invitation from Christ to just simply let go of her self-reliance. So she sat down with her journal right then and there, and the invocations of this prayer flowed directly onto the page.
But the sources also mentioned that it wasn't purely an isolated personal diary entry, right?
Right, no, it was broader than that.
Yeah. Her words were deeply shaped by the everyday trials, the emotional wounds, and the sheer anxiety she was witnessing in the people she ministered to on a daily basis.
Exactly. She was synthesizing her own crisis of control with the universal pain she saw in the modern world around her. She was hearing the same fears repeated over and over by different people in different walks of life.
It was really born at the intersection of her own vulnerability and the vulnerability of the people she served.
Yeah, but the fascinating part of this origin story is what she did after writing it. She kept it completely private for about a year.
Which, honestly, I completely understand that instinct.
You do.
Oh, absolutely. It is like writing a deeply personal, almost embarrassing diary entry about your deepest insecurities and neuroses. You don't just immediately hand that out to the public, you know? The vulnerability hangover would be intense.
The vulnerability hangover, I like that. Yeah, the text felt too raw, so she just used it in her own private prayer life.
Yeah.
But eventually, she was asked to give a talk on mercy to a group of young adults, and she decided to share the litany.
And the reaction from that audience was just instantaneous.
Totally. People immediately demanded copies of the text.
And from there, it just explodes. The sources detail how her religious community had to start printing pocket-sized prayer cards just to keep up with the demand. It goes from a secret journal entry to a worldwide devotion, spreading through parish retreats, Catholic schools, and massive digital platforms like the Hallow app and Ascension Press.
It really took off.
It did. And if a private prayer goes viral that quickly, it can't just be offering generic comfort. It must be actively confronting something uncomfortable that we all feel but rarely talk about.
And the commentary we are looking at,
Yeah.
An Anatomy of Surrender, points out exactly that. The prayer names the specific spiritual and psychological blocks that everyone suffers from, but that we rarely dare to speak out loud.
It holds up a mirror.
Yes, it forces the reader into a state of radical honesty. And to understand how it achieves that, we really need to look at the structure of the text itself. The litany is divided into two distinct movements, and the first half is completely focused on dismantling our false security.
Right. It's called the Petitions for Deliverance. Every line in this section is a specific fear or control mechanism, ending with the phrase, "Deliver me, Jesus." Because before you can build trust, you have to bulldoze the walls of fear you've built. Let's look at how it does that.
So the commentary highlights several key petitions that target our baseline operating systems. One of the most prominent is the line, "From the belief that I have to earn your love, deliver me, Jesus."
That's a heavy one.
It is. The analysis here notes that at the root of so much of our spiritual exhaustion is a subtle, highly transactional view of God.
I really want to unpack that transactional view because I think corporate and hustle culture bleeds into our spiritual lives way more than we realize.
Oh, without a doubt.
We are conditioned by a society that tells us we are only as valuable as our output. We get performance reviews at work, we get grades in school. We naturally default to treating grace as a wage to be earned.
Like a paycheck.
Exactly. We start to think we have to perform emotionally, maintain perfect moral consistency, or constantly output good deeds just to be worthy of love. We treat God like a CEO who is evaluating our quarterly metrics.
And the psychological burden of viewing God as a CEO is immense because you can never take a day off. You're always one mistake away from being spiritually fired.
Right.
Praying this petition, asking for deliverance from the belief that love must be earned, offers a profound psychological relief. It reorients the mind to the reality that God's love precedes our efforts. It is a given, not a reward.
That is a massive paradigm shift. But as I read through the source material, I noticed the litany pushes even deeper into some very uncomfortable territory. It doesn't just stop at the pressure to perform.
No, it goes right for the jugular.
Yeah.
The commentary identifies one specific line in this first movement as perhaps the most piercing in the entire prayer.
Which one is that?
The line is, "From the fear that trusting you will do's, you will leave me more destitute. Deliver me, Jesus."
Wow. That is deeply uncomfortable to hear out loud. It almost feels taboo to admit that we harbored that thought.
It does feel taboo, yeah.
But it's true. We have this quiet, nagging suspicion that if we actually start managing every single outcome, God is going to shortchange us.
Right. It exposes the fear of abandonment disguised as self-sufficiency. We subconsciously believe that God is a harsh taskmaster rather than a tender provider. The logic we tell ourselves is, well, if I take my hands off the steering wheel, you're going to steer me into a ditch to teach me a lesson.
Bam, that's exactly it.
And the prayer systematically names these defense mechanisms. It asks for deliverance from the fear of being unlovable, from suspicion of God's promises, from anxiety about the future, and from restless self-seeking.
I do want to push back on one of the concepts in this section, though.
Okay, sure.
There's a line that targets false security. It says, "From the false security that I have what it takes, deliver me, Jesus." Wait, isn't it basic human nature to want security?
Yes, of course.
So it feels totally counterintuitive to pray against feeling secure when that is what we are all desperately working for every single day. Why would I want to give up the feeling that I have what it takes to handle my life?
Well, the distinction the commentary makes here relies heavily on the word false. False security is the illusion of control. It is the belief that I have what it takes to manage the universe, or at least my tiny corner of it, entirely on my own.
Okay, let me try an analogy here. It's like a Chinese finger trap.
Okay, I'm with you.
You know those woven bamboo tubes you stick your index fingers into? The natural human instinct when you want to feel secure or get free is to pull your fingers apart as hard as you can. You try to force your way out.
Yeah, you just pull and pull.
But the harder you pull, the more you rely on your own strength and control. The tighter the trap grips you. Your own effort to secure yourself is actually what traps you. The only way to get free is to do something totally counterintuitive. You have to relax, stop pulling, and push your fingers inward. Surrender is the only thing that releases the tension.
That perfectly illustrates the mechanism at play, yeah. False security is the exhausted pulling at the finger trap. It is what makes us so spiritually and mentally drained. The litany is designed to make you stop pulling. The text contrasts this false security with true surrender to divine providence.
Let's clarify divine providence for a second, because that can sound like a lofty theological term. In practice, what does that actually look like?
Good point. In the context of this litany, trusting in divine providence doesn't mean believing that magically nothing bad will ever happen to you. It means trusting in the underlying goodness of God's will and His presence, even when the circumstances are incredibly confusing or painful.
So it's about foundation, not circumstance.
Exactly. It is the deep conviction that you are held by something stronger than your own ability to manage your life.
And that brings us to the pivot. Once all that heavy armor of false security is stripped away in the first half of the prayer, you are left completely exposed. The finger trap is off, but your hands are empty.
Right, you're just standing there.
The litany brilliantly shifts at this point. It moves from focusing on what we fear to what we can actively rely on.
And the source material refers to this second movement as the affirmations of trust. If the first half is about emptying the hands, the second half is about what we are now free to grasp.
A completely different posture.
Exactly. The refrain shifts entirely. Instead of "deliver me, Jesus," the reader responds to every line with Jesus, "I trust in you." It is a series of positive declarations intended to anchor the mind in God's ongoing presence.
The way this section reframes our daily anxieties is staggering. There is one affirmation in particular that completely flips how we view the future. That not knowing what tomorrow brings is an invitation to lean on you. Jesus, I trust in you.
It's a huge shift.
It really is. We talked earlier about how human beings crave predictability. We view uncertainty as a massive threat that must be neutralized with planning and worrying.
And the commentary spends a lot of time on this specific reframing. Society teaches us that limitations are failures. If you don't know the future, if you can't fix a problem, if you lack resources, those are viewed as deficits to be overcome by sheer willpower. But this affirmation teaches that our limitations are actually gifts.
Calling a limitation a gift is a radical departure from the hustle culture we live in. We are constantly told to be limitless, to break boundaries, to manifest our own destiny.
Oh, completely. The Litany argues that if we were limitless, if we knew everything and could fix everything, we would be entirely self-enclosed. We would never have any reason to lean on anyone else, including God.
We'd just be on our own little islers.
Right. Therefore, the inability to see tomorrow is not a threat. It is an invitation. It is a specific sacred meeting place where grace enters. Your limit is the exact spot where you are forced to trust.
But let me ask you this, because this is where my mind immediately goes. If we fully embrace not knowing tomorrow, does this mean the prayer is advocating for passive resignation?
Ah, I see what you mean.
Do we just throw our hands up, stop planning our lives, stop saving for retirement, and just wait for God to do everything while we sit on the couch?
No, not at all. And the analytical commentary anticipates that exact concern and definitively counters it. Surrender, in the context of this prayer, is not giving up. It is not fatalism. The source states it is an active, daily realignment of the soul.
So it is about letting go of the anxiety over the outcome, not abandoning the action itself.
Exactly.
You still do the work, you still make the plans, you still have the difficult conversations, but you surrender the desperate need to control how it all resolves.
Yes. And that active realignment completely changes the texture of our daily lives. The commentary uses this incredible phrase. It says, the prayer redefines friction.
I love that phrase. Because daily life is just full of friction. Delays, interruptions, relational misunderstandings, professional setbacks, the email that wasn't answered.
And usually these are just massive annoyances that derail our mood and spike our stress. But through the devotional reading of this litany, those exact same annoyances cease to be mere annoyances. The text says they become raw material for sanctity.
Raw material for sanctity, wow.
Now, and sanctity here doesn't mean walking around with a glowing halo. It means achieving a deep, unshakable inner peace and closeness to God. Every time an unexpected burden arises or someone is difficult to deal with, the refrain, Jesus, I trust in you, acts as a breath that anchors the soul. You take the very things that cause you stress and use them as stepping stones to peace.
The sources mention several other beautiful affirmations in this second half that rewire how we perceive reality. It includes believing that His love goes deeper than our sins and actually transforms us, believing that He is present in our suffering and that our suffering, when united to His, isn't meaningless but will bear fruit.
It's just so packed with meaning.
It affirms that His plan is better than our own meticulously crafted plans, and ultimately that our very life is a gift.
Yeah, and understanding the theology and the beautiful structure of this prayer is vital. But the sources we have don't just leave it at theory. They give highly specific instructions on how a reader should actually engage with this text.
Which is helpful.
It is, because if you just read it quickly, it risks becoming another grocery list of spiritual wishes.
Which is exactly what we tend to do. We skim articles, we listen to things on double speed. How are we supposed to read this so it actually works?
Well, a litany of trust is designed to be a practice for meditation. The primary rule the sources emphasize is that it must not be rushed. Because this prayer touches on deeply sensitive, often painful areas of personal control and fear, the reader is specifically instructed to lean into the resistance they feel.
Wait, leaning into resistance sounds like the opposite of finding peace.
How so?
Well, usually if I'm reading a prayer or a self-help book and a line makes me feel incredibly uncomfortable or defensive, my natural instinct is to skim past it to find a line that makes me feel good. Why lean into the discomfort?
The commentary explains that the feeling of resistance is actually a diagnostic tool. As you read slowly through the petitions and affirmations, you are supposed to pay close attention to your own internal reactions. The reader is instructed to pause at the specific lines that provoke the greatest interior resistance.
So you are saying the lines that make you physically wince, or the ones that make you roll your eyes, or feel a spike of skepticism, those are the exact lines you need to highlight and just sit with.
Exactly that. That physical wince is the X on the treasure map. It is the Holy Spirit holding up a mirror to your interior life. The places where you feel the most defensive are precisely the places where you are gripping the Chinese finger trap the tightest.
Oh man, that makes so much sense.
Right. It is where Christ is asking for deeper trust. If you balk at the line about trusting him not leaving you destitute, that is where your spiritual work is for the day.
You don't run from the winds. You camp out on it.
You camp out on it. And by pausing there and offering those specific terrifying fears back to him, line by line, the text transforms. It ceases to be merely words printed on a page. The commentary notes that through this method, it becomes a living dialogue between a weary heart and a faithful Savior.
It's active.
Very active. You aren't just reciting. You are actively dismantling your own defenses in real time.
If we pull all of this together, we have traced a pretty incredible journey in this deep dive. We started with Sister Faustina in a highly private, overwhelming moment of crisis, feeling unmoored and drowning in the unknown. She was experiencing the exact same gap between expectation and reality that so many of us face.
And from that moment of raw vulnerability came a tool that has reached across the globe. It is a text that systematically names and dismantles the false security we exhaust ourselves trying to maintain.
Which is quite a feat.
It really is. It takes the terrifying unknown, the things we cannot predict or control, and reframes them as a sacred meeting place with God.
It is just intensely practical. If you are listening to this right now and you are facing professional setbacks or dealing with friction in a relationship, or maybe you are just carrying around this heavy general anxiety about what the next year holds for you, these sources show that the raw material of your stress can actually be transformed.
It really can.
It can become the raw material for your peace if you stop pulling at the trap.
It is an invitation to let the illusion of control fall away and to trust that your limitations are not failures. They are the exact places where you are being held.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your day. Think about the exact thing in your life right now that you are trying the hardest to control. That one situation or relationship or outcome that is keeping you up at night, where your knuckles are white from gripping it so tightly. If your inability to fix that problem yourself is actually a gift meant to draw you closer to trust, what would happen if you stopped managing the outcome today? What if your biggest limitation right now is actually your greatest invitation?
That is a great question to leave on.
Thank you so much for exploring these sources with us today. We will catch you on the next deep dive.